أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، شفيع المذنبين وخاتم النبيين، نبينا وشفينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن الإسابة التي جاحدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد، وهو أصدق الصادقين وقوله الحق. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل فبما أغويتني لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم ثم لا يأتينهم من بين أيديهم ومن خلفهم وعن أيمانهم وعن شمائلهم ولا تجد أكثرهم شاكرين. آمنا بالله وصدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Scholars, respected scholars, elders of the communities, my brothers and sisters in Islam, Salamun alaykum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمسابنا بأبا عبد الله الحسين عليه الصلاة والسلام. This ayah of the Holy Quran is from Surah Al-A'raf, which is chapter number 7 and ayat 16 to 17, which is what I have recited to you. It's an interesting ayat in the sense that this is an ayah when Iblis, when Shaitan has been kicked out from the domain of the kingdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After he refused to prostrate in front of Adam and Shaitan is kicked out, at that time there is a conversation between Shaitan and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in defiance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Shaitan is basically saying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that because you have sent me astray. Look at how Shaitan is working. First he's blaming Allah. He's saying, because you have sent me astray, surely I will wait for your creations, for the human beings. I will wait for them on your straight path, on siratakal mustaqim. Because in the fitrah of every human being is that they will be on the straight path. And that is what Shaitan is saying, that the way I will find them is I will find them on your siratakal mustaqim, on your straight path. And when I find them on your straight path, I will come to them from the front and I will come to them from behind. And I will come to them from the left side and I will come to them from the right side. And then he says to Allah that once I am able to penetrate them from the front, back, left and right, you will find that most of them are not thankful to you. Most of them are not thankful to you. Most of them will not be وَلَا تَجِدُوا أَكْثَرَهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ. Most of them will not do your shukr. Most of them will not be thankful to you. Salvation, my friends, lies in adopting this attitude of shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. gratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot ascend to high levels of spirituality without adopting this level of gratitude. Shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this ayah, Shaitan says that most of them, you will only find a few of them who will be grateful. Just a few. Most of them are going to be ungrateful to you. Only a few will be grateful. The ultimate goal of Shaitan, therefore, is really not for you to commit a sin. The ultimate goal of Shaitan is not for you to commit a sin. Because Shaitan knows that if you commit a sin, you can undo it. You can undo it with tawbah. You can undo it with istighfar. The main goal of Shaitan, as outlined in this ayah, is to make you ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's his main goal. He wants you to forget that whatever blessings you have is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he wants to make you ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is his goal. Therefore, doing the shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes that yardstick by which you measure and you determine how much of our souls have become in the control of Shaitan. Shukr of Allah. It's a very important concept. If you look at this ayah, he says in this ayah that I'm going to approach them from all sides. Front, back, left and right. I'm going to approach them from all sides because I'm trying to find that access to these people, to the human beings that you have created, to the progeny of Adam that you have created. I want to find access to them, and I will come to them from all sides because my goal is they forget you in such a way that they don't even understand that everything in existence actually comes from you. They don't understand that everything that is in existence is yours. And so if they are not thankful to you, then I've done my work. Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, he gives a very deep meaning to this verse. In the tafsir, Majmu' al-Bayan, I think this is where you find it. So the fifth Imam talks about this verse in a lot more detail. He talks about what it means when Shaitan says, I'll come from the front and from the back and from the left and from the right. And he says when the Shaitan is coming from the front, that means that he will make the future and the hereafter, the akhirah, very remote and far for you. And this is what we see, right? You talk to a youth today and you say to a youth that is it not time for you to maybe go to Hajj? MashaAllah, you are 30 years old, 35 years old, you've got a good job, you're a VP in a corporate organization, right? You have the means to go for Hajj. This is not time. There is still time. I'm only young right now. I have still, let me enjoy, and then when I get older, then I will do Salat and Hajj and maybe even Salatul Layl, I may just, squeeze one in there somewhere, right? Sometimes, even when we talk to our seniors, and respectfully I say this to them, I talked to one 80-year-old once, and he said that, Bana, hajun to bahut time che. Alhamdulillah, hajun to bahut time che. So he makes the future and the akhirah seem remote to you, seem very far away. That's his attack from the front. When he talks about attacking you from the back, this means that he will attack you regarding your accomplishments, what you have accomplished. He says, and the fifth Imam says, that Shaitan is saying that I will command them to accumulate wealth and fear poverty. So much so that they will be engrossed in the accumulation of wealth because they will fear poverty. And in so doing, they will not understand that the wealth actually comes from you. So they will not be grateful to you. That's what I'm going to do to them. That's his attack from the back. Whether it is wealth, whether it is children, whether it is family, that's how he says, I'm going to attack them. When he says, I will attack them from the left, it means that he will make the dunya and the materialistic and base desires seem attractive to you. What he's saying here is, I'm going to package this dunya for you in such a way, and I'm going to put it in a box, and I'm going to have a nice wrapping paper around it. I'm going to put a beautiful bow on it, and I'm going to present it to you. And you will think this is beautiful, right? I will decorate their desire, the fifth Imam says. I will decorate their desires and their sins to them in such a way that they will be attached to it. You see this, today. If you don't believe me, go on social media. And you will see. Sometimes, we use, and I am not against social media, right? I've got a Twitter account and everything, right? So I'm not against it. But sometimes what happens is when we are somebody is carrying out an act of haram, right? What do? We post that picture on Facebook. Yeah? Snapchat it, Instagram it. Somebody who is completely, in a state of a woman, for example, who has no hijab, not only does she not have hijab, but she's not even dressed modestly, will take a picture of herself at Daytona Beach and will put it on Facebook and will put it on Instagram and will Snapchat it for everybody to see. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, he says that the most wretched person is that person who commits a sin and then displays that sin for everybody to look at. The most wretched person. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Sattar al-Uyub. One of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Sattar al-Uyub. He hides your sins. What do? Alhamdulillah, we expose them. That is his attack from the left. But then he says that I will also attack you from the right. And when he talks about attacking from the right, he is now talking about those people who are religious. How will shaitan attack those people who are religious? See, shaitan for the religious people is not going to tempt them to sin. Because he knows they are not going to sin. He knows this guy is not going to drink alcohol. He's not going to go and gamble. He's not going to sin. Right? So what does he do? He says, I will corrupt your understanding of religion. The way you understand the religion, and when what the truth of the religion is, I will corrupt it. I will misguide it in such a way that misguidance will appear to be appealing to you. I will create new ideologies. There will be new ideologies. In the name of academia, in the name of progression, in the name of let's look at it differently. And I'm not saying there is anything wrong with that. You need to be cautious, because sometimes with this type of an attack from the right, we end up selling our deen very cheaply. It's a very cheap sell-off of our deen. It's very easy. It says what shaitan, the fifth Imam says that what shaitan is saying is that even when you commit an act, I will take away the ikhlas of the act from you. The sincerity of the act, I will take it away. So you will do it, but you will do it to show off. You can perform a good act, but the niyat of that act will be taken away from you. That is his plan on how he's going to attack us. Because he says, if I do this, you will be so engrossed, so confused, so attached to the dunya, you will see the akhirah being so far away that you will forget that what you have is nothing but a blessing of God. And you will not even think of doing shukr of Allah. Shukr or gratitude is actually the opposite of kufr, ungratefulness. Gratefulness is shukr, ungratefulness is kufr. Shukr is being aware of and grateful for the fact that the whole world and whatever is in existence of this world, all those are the favors and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And such awareness and gratefulness leads us to use those blessings in the way that those blessings were intended for us to use. That's shukr. You see, shukr is actually uncovering. Literally what shukr means is to uncover. When one uses a divine blessing for the purpose that it was originally intended to be used, what you are doing is you are actually uncovering that divine blessing, and hence you are doing shukr. Kufr is when you cover that divine blessing by using that blessing inappropriately and committing a sin by the blessing that has been given to you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what kufr is. So it's very important to understand how we should do shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's the attack of shaitan. That's his main objective. Right? Now, as we have been talking about everything in this series of lectures, there are many levels of shukr. Right? There are many levels of shukr. The first level of shukr is actually not shukr at all. So before we come to the levels of shukr, let's make sure that we understand what is not shukr. Most of us are grateful, where we are really grateful for the actual blessing that we have received. We are not grateful for the person who has given us that blessing. We are not grateful for that divine power that has given us a blessing. We are just grateful for the blessing that we have. If that blessing would have been given to us by anybody else, we would have been just as happy to have received that blessing if it had come from other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is when you're focused on the blessing, yes? If you have wealth, as long as you have wealth and you are enjoying your wealth, then what you're doing is you are happy that you have wealth. You have no idea or no cognizance, no awareness of the fact that this wealth has actually been given to me as a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's not thankfulness at all. That's not shukr. So what is shukr? What is the first level and the lowest level of shukr? The lowest level is that some people give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His favors and His blessings, but with the intention that they want to be saved from the punishment of the hereafter, or they want to enter paradise. See, these people understand, yes, I have a blessing, and indeed that blessing is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they are happy that this blessing is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they are doing the shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because now they know that Allah likes me. I'm in a good position with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So inshallah, if I do shukr, He will give me more. And if I continue to do His shukr, inshallah, I will be able to enter Jannah. And if I continue to do his shukr, then maybe I will not go to hell. So they do shukr, understanding it is from Allah, but now they are doing shukr because they want some more from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ayatollah Jawadi Amuli talks about this level of shukr as a commercial gratitude. Yes? And there is an ayah in the Quran, of course, that all of you know, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَذِيدَنَّكُمْ. So they have actually translated this particular ayah in a way that says that if you are grateful, then surely I will enhance for you. I will give you more blessings. If you are grateful, I give you more blessings. So they said, alhamdulillah, we should be grateful. We can get more from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is commercial gratitude. But then there is another group of people, a higher group, a higher level of shukr. These people are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they regard whatever there is that they get as a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they believe in Allah as their master and their Lord. They are not doing shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they are lalchi, right? Because they want more from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They do shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They give gratitude not because they want to be saved from the hellfire or go to Jannah. No, they have a profound knowledge of God and they understand that because of His blessings, He deserves gratitude. It's a higher level of shukr. And they say thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only for His material blessings, but they are even more grateful sometimes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His spiritual blessings. They thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving them knowledge, for giving them morality, for making them just, for giving them love towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and giving them that state of altruism so that they can help other people. There is a higher level of shukr. But then there is a group that's higher than that. And this group that is even higher than that, this group is a group of people who are the awliya of Allah. They are the vicegerents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are the awliya of Allah who cannot find a blessing, material or non-material. They don't see a blessing other than Allah Himself. Their focus is now not on the blessing at all. Their focus has shifted away from the blessing to the bestower of the blessing. Their focus is now only on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing makes them content. Nothing makes them content except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the proximity and closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't care about anything else. They don't see the blessing as a blessing. That blessing is only a means for them because their goal is closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are thankful because they have perceived the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they are overtaken by the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in such a way that Ayatollah Jawadi Amuli says that nothing calms them anymore except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for such people, God Himself, Allah Himself is the utmost and ultimate blessing. They are most grateful to God Himself. They strive to know Him and keep His love in their hearts with an ever-increasing thirst to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their goal is liqa'ullah, meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the shukr of the heart. It's a very high level of shukr. In Nahjul Balagha, Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi You'll find this in Sermon 155 of Nahjul Balagha. Amir al-Mu'mineen, alludes to this conversation where he was very upset that he had not tasted martyrdom after the Battle of Uhud. And the Holy Prophet had promised him martyrdom, and after the Battle of Uhud had finished, he was still alive, so he was upset that he had not tasted martyrdom. So now Amir al-Mu'mineen and the Holy Prophet, they are having a conversation. They're chatting to each other. Yes? And then the Prophet looks at Amir al-Mu'mineen that he was upset. And the Holy Prophet says to Amir al-Mu'mineen, "O Abu al-Hasan, after my death, my ummah will not be good to you." Amir al-Mu'mineen is listening. And he says that you will see and you will face many calamities, and you will face many adversities, and you will face oppression. And there will come a day when you will be martyred in the masjid in the state of sajda. And the Holy Prophet was crying. And there was tears that were pouring down his cheeks onto his beard. And the Prophet says to Amir al-Mu'mineen, "O Ali, when you face these calamities and when you face this oppression at that time, tell me, O Abu al-Hasan, what will your sabr be like? How will you bear it? What's your patience going to be like?" And Amir al-Mu'mineen looks at the Holy Prophet and he says, "O Prophet of God, Ya Rasulullah, may my mother and my father be sacrificed for you." He says, "I have but one question for you." "Yes, what is it, O Abu al-Hasan?" And Amir al-Mu'mineen says to the Holy Prophet, "Ya Rasulullah, just tell me one thing. When I am in that state, when I will be oppressed, when I will have all those calamities, will I be on the truth? Will I be on haqq? Will I be on the right path?" And the Prophet said, "Of course, Abu al-Hasan. Of course, Ali, you will be on the right path." At that, Amir al-Mu'mineen smiles and he says to the Holy Prophet, "Then, Ya Rasulullah, that time will not be a time for sabr for me. It will be a time for shukr for me." This is a time of thankfulness for me, because my goal is that even if it is a calamity, even if it is an oppression for me, if it is a calamity or an oppression, if that is going to take me close to Allah, then that's a blessing. That's a blessing. And so now, we need to interpret this verse differently, yes? لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. The actual translation of this verse is, Allah is saying that if you are grateful, I will surely enhance you. Allah is saying, I will enhance you. Not I will enhance for you. Not I will enhance on you. No. If you have this level of shukr, then I will enhance you. In contrast to all those other levels, he says that, I will enhance you in such a way that I will elevate you and ascend you to higher levels of perfection. I will enhance you. Our seventh Imam, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far, Babul Hawaj, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. If only people knew this Imam. Wallahi, I'm telling you, we have ignored this Imam, Babul Hawaj. He was once traveling. He was on a horse. He was traveling with his companion. And suddenly he stops his horse. He dismounts and he goes into sajda. And he goes into sajda for a long time. And the companion is sort of saying, bro, what's happening? Like, I'm not sure what's going on here, right? But he waits. He was a companion, so he waits. And after some time, the seventh Imam raises himself. The companion says to the seventh Imam, Yabna Rasulullah, what happened? He said, as we were traveling, I just remembered a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because I remembered that blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I could not help myself but go into sajda. Now there is an even higher level of shukr than that. The highest level of shukr, the highest level of gratitude is that level where you confess our inability to thank Allah the way He deserves to be thanked. That's the highest level, right? Giving thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He deserves is impossible, because every time we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to thank Him again for giving us that blessing to be able to use our body, our bodily organs, our mouth, our tongue, our arms, our legs, to help to thank Him for giving us those bodily members so that we were able to thank Him. And number two, for giving us the tawfiq to be able to thank Him, we have to thank Him again for that blessing. And this is why the fourth Imam writes in his du'as in Sahifa Sajadiyah, read dua number 15 in Sahifa, you will see, he says, how can I achieve thanksgiving? For my thanking you, O God, requires thanksgiving in itself. And whenever I say to thee belongs praise, it becomes incumbent on me to say again, to thee belongs praise. It's what Imam Hussein says in Dua Arafah. We recite Dua Arafah on the day of Arafah. This is a beautiful irfanic dua where Imam enumerates all the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with respect to all his bodily organs. He talks about his eyes and his hands and his nose and his lungs and his heart. And at the end of him, he says, how can I thank you for these blessings? For me, having the ability to thank you requires a thankfulness in itself. Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. This is what it is. Mullah Sadra, draws a beautiful analogy in trying to show, the different forms of gratitude, that people express. He talks, for example, about a king who gives his servant a horse. And the servant is delighted because it has value. It has monetary value. And of course, the horse can be benefit to him. But this servant, initially what happens is he says that if this servant is happy that he's been given a horse from the king, because of the horse and the value that the horse has, and how the horse can benefit him, he has absolutely no regard for who gave him that horse, for he would have been just as happy if he had found the horse in a desert on its own. He would have been just as happy. Then he says, this is not shukr. Right? There is no thankfulness at all, because the vision is only on the blessing. The vision is not on who has given the blessing. But he says that there is a second kind of joy, and that is when he delights in it, not because it is a horse, but because he now knows that because the king has given this horse to me, it means the king likes me. The king is compassionate to me. So now he appreciates the fact that it is the king who has given him the horse. And he knows that I actually don't probably need the horse, but what really makes me happy is the fact that the king has given the horse to me. But now he thinks that this incites an emotion in him, right? It incites an emotion within that he says to himself, the king has a good feeling about me in his heart. Perhaps because he has given me the horse, I can get more from him. That is the second kind of thankfulness, right? He delights over it because he knows that the state of righteousness of those people who worship Allah, who are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, maybe Allah will give them more blessings, and maybe Allah will make sure they don't go to hell and they go to heaven. But then Mullah Sadra says the third kind of joy is when that servant delights in the horse in order to ride it, but he wants to use the horse just as a means to get close to the king. He says to himself that I want to take this horse. This horse is going to be my ticket to just get close to the king because I really love this king. And so he uses the horse in whichever way he can to gain proximity to the king. His focus is now not the horse. His focus is the king. And that is a level of thankfulness. That level of joy in that servant is because now that blessing enables him to have a proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to reside in the companionship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what you see in the personality of Hur. You look at the narrations of Hur, the change and the transformation of Hur was such that he comes to a point in his life where when you see what he does on the day of Ashura, you see how he becomes thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For that ability of his, he was a great warrior. He now uses that ability in the battlefield with Imam Hussein to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I tell you, of all the shuhada, this personality gives me the most hope. I pray to Allah always for one thing. I say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I do not have the ability to emulate or be even near or close to the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Just make me like the servant of Hur. That's all I need. In the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad, there was no person like Hur, no great warrior like Hur. And many times Umar ibn Sa'ad used to come to Hur and he used to say that, oh Hur, as long as you are in my army, I got nothing to fear. I'm good. I have nothing to fear. On the night of Ashura, Hur is sitting in his tent. And as he is sitting in his tent, there is a level of anxiety inside Hur. There is a bechayni inside Hur. There is a level of agitation in the heart of Hur. As Hur sits in his tent, he thinks to himself that I didn't think that it would come to this. It appears that there is indeed going to be a fight tomorrow. And then he listens closely and he sees that there are voices of children coming from the tents of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. As Hur starts to listen a little bit closely, he starts to hear the voices of the small children. And the voices of the small children is, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. Oh thirst, oh thirst. Hur starts to reflect. The light of purification illuminates the heart of Hur. And it is at this time he says to himself, the water of Furat is making such a noise, but the children of Fatima al-Zahra are thirsty. Oh Hur, what are you doing here? Hur does not sleep all night. The historians write that when dawn comes, the sun has just creeped out. The sun has just risen. The Hur at that time, he decides that he's going to go to the army of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. As Hur is leaving, he sees one of the men in the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad, whose name was Murrah. His name was Murrah ibn Qais. he sees that Murrah ibn Qais is taking some horses and he is going to the river of Furat. Hur follows Murrah, and then when Murrah gets to the river of Furat, he sees that Murrah is doing something. At that time, Hur says to Murrah, Murrah, what are you doing? Murrah says to Hur, I am taking buckets of water from the river of Furat and I am pouring them on the feet of these horses. He says to Hur, oh Hur, you do not know the heat of Karbala is such that even though the sun has just risen, it has just risen, but the heat of Karbala is such that these horses are not able to put their hooves on the ground of Karbala because of the heat. So I'm pouring water on them, on their feet, so that they may have a little bit of relief. When Hur sees this, he starts to weep. He says, Murrah, you are putting water on the feet of the horses, yet these children of Fatima al-Zahra are tugging on the abaya of their mother and they're saying, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. Azadaro, Hur decided to now go towards the camp of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. As Hur goes towards the camp of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, Imam al-Hussein says to Abu al-Fadl Abbas, oh Abbas, I want you to go and meet my mehman. I want you to go and meet my guest, and I want you to bring him to me. Abu al-Fadl Abbas leaves the camp of Aba Abdullah. Hur leaves the camp of Umar ibn Sa'd. These two warriors meet in the middle of the battlefield. Hur looks at Abu al-Fadl Abbas. He bows his head down and he says, oh Abu al-Fadl, is it possible for you to take me to my master Abu Abdullah al-Hussein? Abu al-Fadl says, Hur, do not worry, for it is my Aka who has sent me to come and get you. Hur smiles and he says, take me quickly to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. At that time, Abu al-Fadl takes Hur to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Azadaro, before they reach Abu Abdullah, Hur stops at a certain point. Abu al-Fadl says, what is it, Hur? I thought you were really anxious to meet my master. Hur says, oh Abu al-Fadl, I want you to take my hands and I want you to tie my hands on my face. Oh Hur, why do you want me to do that? Hur says, I don't know how I will be able to face Abu Abdullah, for it is because of me that they are here. It is because of me that the children are thirsty. Abu al-Fadl ties Hur's hand on his face. When Hur comes to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, Hur puts himself onto the feet of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. When he puts him onto the feet of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, he says to Abu Abdullah, do you think that you will be able to forgive me? For it is because of me that you are here in Karbala. Abu Abdullah lifts Hur up and he says, oh Hur, your mother has named you properly, for Hur means a free person. Hur, go, today you are free from my forgiveness, and my Allah has also forgiven you. You are a free man. Azadaro, जब हुर को इमाम ने माफ़ी दी है, जब हुर को इमाम ने माफ़ी दी है, तो वहाँ के लोगों ने तकबीर की आवाज़ बुलंद की. करबला के ख़याम में से तकबीर की आवाज़ बरामद हुई. अल्लाहु अकबर, अल्लाहु अकबर. सानिए ज़हरा के कानों में जब तकबीर की आवाज़ आई है, तो एक मर्तबा ज़ैनब ने फ़िज़्ज़ा से कहा, फ़िज़्ज़ा जाके पता चलो करो कि करबला के मैदान में ये तकबीर की आवाज़ क्यों आ रही है. फ़िज़्ज़ा ने पता किया, वापस आती है, कहती है, शहज़ादी हुर आया है, हुर आया है, बस ये सुनना था. ज़ैनब ने कहा, फ़िज़्ज़ा जाके हुर को मेरा सलाम करो. मैंने देखा है, हर रोज सुनती थी कि आज इतने हजार की फौज आई है, यजीद की फौज आई है, आज इतने 100 की यजीद की फौज आई है. ये पहली दफा सुन रही हूँ कोई मेरे भाई के लिए आया है. जाके हुर को मेरा सलाम سلام دو. عزادار و فضا نے جب حر کو سلام کیا ہے، ایک مرتبہ حر تڑپ گیا، حر تڑپ کے زمین پہ بیٹھ گیا، آسمان کی طرف دیکھ کے کہتا ہے یا اللہ یہ کیسا وقت آ گیا ہے کہ ثانی زہرا مجھ جیسے گنہگار کو سلام کر رہی ہے. عزادارو اب حر ابا عبداللہ کے پاس آتا ہے. حر نے ابا عبداللہ سے کہا آقا ایک گزارش ہے، ایک گزارش ہے. ابا عبداللہ نے کہا حر سنبھل کے کہنا تو میرا مہمان ہے، نہ میرے پاس کوئی کھانا ہے، نہ پانی کے لیے، نہ پینے کے لیے کوئی پانی ہے. حر نے کہا نہیں ابا عبداللہ میری ایک درخواست ہے، میں چاہتا ہوں کہ میں عورتوں کی خیام میں جا کے مجھے عورتوں کے ساتھ بات کرنا ہے، عورتوں کے خیام کے باہر میں عورتوں سے کچھ باتیں کرنا چاہتا ہوں. ابا عبداللہ نے اجازت دی. حر خیام کے آگے آتا ہے، خیام کے باہر حر کھڑا ہوا، سب بیویاں اکٹھی ہوئی، بیویاں خیام کے اندر ہے، حر خیام خیمے کے باہر ہے. ایک مرتبہ حر نے بیویوں کو کہا کہ دیکھو میں یہاں اس لیے آیا ہوں کہ میں چاہتا ہوں کہ تم مجھے معاف کرو کیونکہ میری وجہ سے تمہارے بچے بھوکے اور پیاسے تڑپ رہے ہیں. حر شرمندہ ہے، میں معافی مانگنے کے لیے آیا ہوں. بس جب عورتوں نے جب یہ سنا سب عورتوں نے کہا حر کوئی بات نہیں ہم نے تجھے معاف کیا. لیکن حر کہتا ہے نہیں ابھی میں یہیں پہ بیٹھوں گا، میں یہاں سے ہٹوں گا نہیں، میری ایک اور درخواست ہے. کیا ہے حر؟ حر کہتا ہے بیویوں سے بیویوں مجھ سے یہ وعدہ کرو کہ جب قیامت کے دن فاطمہ زہرا سے ملاقات ہوگی تو تم حر کی شکایت نہیں کرو گے. عزادارو یہ سننا تھا. عورتوں نے کہا کہ حر ہم وعدہ کرتے ہیں کہ فاطمہ زہرا سے تمہاری شکایت نہیں کریں گے. بس یہ سننا تھا. حر نے اب ابا عبداللہ کو کہا آقا اب مجھے میدان میں جانے کی اجازت دو. عزادارو حر کو میدان میں جانے کی اجازت ملی ہے. حر ایک مرتبہ آئے ہیں، عمر سعد کا لشکر ادھر کا ادھر ہو گیا. ایک مرتبہ کسی نے حر پہ حملہ کیا، حر گھوڑے سے زمین پہ آئے. ایک مرتبہ کہا السلام علیک یا ابا عبداللہ، اے سلام ہو تم پہ او ابا عبداللہ. بس یہ سننا تھا. حسین تڑپ گئے تیزی کے پاس حر کی لاش پہ آئے، ایک مرتبہ فریاد کی آئے میرا مہمان شہید. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنقَلِبٍ يَنقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. مات الحسین یا حسین.